Okay, Benton Marcum here, working with CSC215, my professor Awad Habib. We're going to be going over pointers here today. This is a project that I've been working on more for my final project, but it also has the pointers that we'll be going over. So if you want to um, go ahead and double time the speed to get to the point where I talk about the pointers. But ultimately, I think it's good info overall. I'm going to try to be very thorough. So if you ever want to show this to anyone, or you're looking to understand things better, hopefully the way I see and look and describe things is able to help you out. Essentially, we have the include iOS stream, include string as well, just to be able to make it easier what can and can't be used in our project using namespace cd library. That's calling the library from the C++, which allows us to be able to call certain functions and the notations of things. Void welcome message, you do a void because you're not looking to return any value, you're just looking to state something out there. We've titled it welcome message here. Be careful you don't put that guy. You do that when you're calling the function. In this case, we're just establishing what it is. std cout, you could just do cout std with the two different colons. It's just a way that they do it to be more professional. I'm just trying to keep in that good habit. So you don't have to do it, but why not, right? Just make it easier for you. Once you get that set up, you're able to do what your cout line is, and then you're going to have the two breaks. That's what the \n is, or I guess forward slash. In this case, when you do it twice, though, it breaks it twice, so you get like that extra space in the line. So if you want things to be spaced a lot, put a backslash, whatever it is, n for each one that you want to do. I always get it confused because what do you consider back? Anyway. std string, again, we're doing the std because it's going off of the namespace. You don't have to put that. You can just put string if you want to. That's the variable type that we're going to be using. And we're calling it menu items. And these two little things, the brackets, is calling for basically an array is what we're talking about. This is a burger joint. So the burger joint here is going to have different types of menus or different types of items on the menu. But then why does the first one say invalid and the last one say no order? Yeah, let's talk about that. So in the string, we're looking at these different things they can select. And once they select it, we want there to be feedback to the user saying what they selected so they understand. Because you could just have it where it says nothing and the computer just knows that that's what they selected. But then how does the user even know what happened? So a lot of things I'm learning to having good code is doing always something after you call a function or tell the computer to do something that lets the user know. If the user doesn't know, then they're going to think something's broken or not working. How many times have you been playing a game, working on a program, and you clicked on something and like it just doesn't load or nothing happens? You need that spinny wheel to pop up, some kind of like indication that lets you know, hey, this is starting to work, or we need a little bit more time, right? The more feedback you're able to give your user, less frustration is going to be. A lot more of like that open book trust that's built with them. Again, digressing, but we have invalid, burger, hot dog, kids menu, salad, and no order. Arrays work by working through an index, and it starts at 0. Doesn't start at 1. So you could ignore the invalid index 0. You could put burger as the first one where it would be index 0. That's totally fine. It really doesn't matter. But if you're doing, if like you're giving feedback to your player, you need to make sure that they're selecting the right command for the index that they'll be selecting so they understand that. And from a user perspective, it doesn't really make sense for them to press 0 for the first item, right? That's just a little confusing. So in this case, we're just going to basically put a buffer. If they put 0, it's just going to say invalid. And if they put 5, saying that they don't want to order, then we're going to have a text that's going to say, okay, try again. But basically, they go through here. We have something then called void show item count. Once they order something, they officially confirm that they want to, order it. We want them to know how many things that they've ordered, so they're keeping tabs on that. Just a very basic way of showing that. So we have the pointer pointing to count. This is, one of the integer variable count that we're calling it here. And we have a cout that says you have ordered, pointing to count, so they're able to know what it is, and then items. So you have ordered, first time they do it, 1 item. And we're going to talk about why that's 1 item in a little bit. The Boolean, which means true or false, in a nutshell, we're calling that confirm selection. And again, we're pointing to the menu, the different options that are available, and we're also pointing to something called total items, which we'll show even later. So in the function for Boolean confirm selection, we have the integer y that we're calling. And we're couting saying you selected, and based on if they put, 1 through 5, or even 0 through 5 in this case. Well, yeah, 1 through 5, because it's going to give them the menu items. The other one is default, the 0. Menu items, it's going to say, hey, we're pointing to the menu here and what they selected. Okay, so they selected 1. We're going to say burger. You selected burger. Is that right? And they're able to then select yes, 1, or 0 for no. And the sin or cin that allows them to be able to then put 1 or 0. If we get into a loop function here, if y is equal to 0, if the user's answer is equal to 1, then we're going to say wonderful. We will work on preparing with love the item, as we already mentioned earlier. We're just repointing to it for you. And here is where we are calling the function. We're calling the function of total items, as we're mentioning up here. So total items is going to be pointed to with that. We're referencing what the value is, and we're going to add 1 incrementally and return the value if true. If it is equal to 0, false essentially, then we're going to say, let's go back and take another look, because if it's not right, we want them to go back and check. Else, if they select invalid selection, if they choose anything else that isn't 1 through 5, that's where it's just going to be an invalid selection. We're not going to show that, but we'll talk about why you don't see invalid later. This is more like a placeholder than anything. But yeah, that happens. Again, we're going to point to the menu, invalid selection, returning false. That's the end of the Boolean there. Make sure you don't forget these guys in the right spot. You're most likely to get syntax errors if you don't. And then each if, else, they're also going to have their own open and end bracket because they need to know the information behind it. All right, so void and survey. After you're done ordering, you're going to get a little survey, know what's going on. This one's really simple. We're using a switch function here. It just basically says void and survey. Again, we're not putting this part right because we're just trying to set up what that is. We do have the variable survey though, difference between the two within the same. We're going to see out saying, hey, how is your experience? And then this is where we're asking for their input based on 1 through 5, like we told them in the user feedback, so they know what to do. The switch then we're calling for the survey is going to be based on what they put. It's going to take the input and it's then going to go systematically through each one and see, what was selected or not. So case 1, if they did select 5, it's going to say, hey, you guys rock. It's going to output this. If they select 2, it's going to go, nope, 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 yes. And then it's going to break out here. What do we ever do to you? Blah, 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 end of switch, all similar logic to here. With that being said, even 5, or sorry, at the end of the switch, then it's going to say come again or not. All right. So now that we've established all these different things, go back over it. We've established a beginning message. We've established the menu that's going to be selected, presented to them. We have created a function that allows us to count incrementally based on the times that they've ordered, which is found through the loop that we'll go over later, how many times they've ordered. We've gone over Boolean, confirming the selection for them to be able to go back or move forward in the process. And then we've also been able to create a survey to be able to allow them to tell us how the visit was. In the main function here, we call welcome message. And then after that, we are setting the value of total items as 0 because logically they haven't ordered anything yet. So it's going to be 0, right? With bool ordering, it doesn't even matter if like previously we set it to false. The point is when the main function is called, it sets it to true. That's what you need to understand. Like with the main functions or just functions in general, whatever value you're putting in there when you call that function, you're changing the value of it. So a lot of times it's going to ignore things you may have said. You need to make sure that you're setting it to the value you want it to be. Save you some headaches. Headaches I'm still going through, but if it clicks for you now and you never deal with that again, awesome. While ordering, now this is when we start the loop here, because we want to create this function through this whole experience, this loop, so that we're able to go back and order new things or be able to have more of a malleable user experience. Otherwise, you're going to run into like repeating code a whole lot, and that's just super clunky and not very efficient. And it's going to create even more of a headache, which is something that I dealt with a lot. So once you kind of like come to understand better where to get your loops in, start the bracket, because here is where the main function starts. This is also where the loop starts specifically. Now we're just going to scroll down and we're going to take a look at when it ends. It ends right here at the very end of our function, because we realistically want it to be there until the very end of the experience for them to have that opportunity to loop through it. Okay, so while ordering equals true, it only works while ordering equals true that we're going to do this loop here. We have the menu. The options are boom, 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 boom. This is the feedback again being given to them, right? These are the selections, the options available to them. Option 5, change my mind. And then after that, it's going to say, hey, please select a number, let them know what they need to do in order to make that choice. So we're calling the the function menu in this or not the function, sorry, but the variable integer menu, and then we are listing all the different things that are here. When we say, hey, put your input, this is why we need this here, so that we're able to initialize the value for it. Otherwise, it's going to say, from where do you want me to pull this? My understanding, at least. If menu is equal to 5, this option, for example, they say, I don't want to order. Hey, hope to catch you next time. End of survey. Boom. Done. Easy. If the menu doesn't always be if and else if, it can just be if, because it's the logic of if this happens, you go through all that. If the menu is greater than 1, because if it's 0, that's an invalid option, right? Or, that's what this symbol means, the menu is greater than 4, which would be 5, in this case. This is what we're going to say. We only got 4 options. Take a look again. It's going to restart that loop. It's going to go back and it's going to ask them again to restart. Here's where you may be thinking, okay, but like, what if they put 5? Why doesn't it give them this? It would if you had this below it, because this is the first thing it's going to check. It's the first thing it's going to check for the if conditions. If you have this below, it's only every single time you put, 0 or 5, it's going to give you, hey, take a look, but it's never going to run that other if function. But if you put this first, it's going to check that, and it knows, oh, okay, if exception to 5, we're going to give them this. Otherwise, everything else, 0, -30, 10, it's going to give them, hey, we only got 4 options. Take a look and try again. Okay, so Once they successfully get through it, they select their option there. This is where we're calling the Boolean that we went over earlier, confirm selection, and it's pointing again to the referencing of the menu and the total items, confirm selection. It's going to see out saying, so far you've ordered, and it's going to pull then, we don't need to point to again because it's already being referenced here. You've ordered total items. We have the incrementer going up by 1 because we successfully went through that. Would you like to order again? And it's going to then ask you yes or no. Now, what's this again? So this is now the variable again that we're calling here. And we need to say, get their input, yes or no, for again, 0 or 1. And we're telling them, to be able to put in 1 for that or 0. If they ordering again equals 0, in this case, for being a Boolean, 0 means no, right? It's going to say, hey, thanks for visiting us. End of survey. Ordering equals false. Don't loop it again. Don't go through that. It's going to call the survey. Else if, again, is not equal to 0, or you could technically just do, else if, again, is equal to 1. Yeah, same thing. It's semantics. Ordering is still true, and we're going to say excellent. What else can we prepare for you? And it's going to loop because the ordering is true. It's going to loop back to while ordering here. You're going to keep going through that until you select, and it would keep incrementing 1 by 1. So let's go ahead and run that real quick, kind of see what that looks like in action here. So welcome to the Burger Joint Media. What will your order be? The options we have are burger. Hey, I'm filling a burger here. I just got done eating one, earlier. With the family, we're going to put 1. Selected a burger, is that right? Yes. Wonderful, working on preparing with love of the burger item for you. So far you've ordered 1 item. Would you like to order again? No. All right, thanks. Let's say 1. Awesome. Or not. Bye. Cool. So that is my project. Thanks for watching.